They demolished my home because my flower garden clashed with their sterile, modern aesthetic. So I turned an ancient valve, and their world began to unravel. The HOA president, Maria Whitmore, thought she held all the power with her forged permits and bulldozers. What she didn't know was that my land hid a secret, a power she never saw coming. What started as a petty citation spiraled into a neighborhood-wide battle, and no one, not even Maria, was prepared for what happened next. Would you have stood your ground? Comment below and tell us where you're watching from. This story takes a sharp turn. My name is Travis Murphy. 6 months ago, I poured my life savings into 20 acres on the edge of Willowbrook Estates. After 15 years in sterile government offices, analyzing whether patterns behind concrete walls, I craved something real. This land, with its cedar, plank house, wraparound porch, and windows that let in fresh air, felt like stepping into color after a lifetime in black and white. I built the house myself. Nothing fancy, just honest wood and open skies. The previous owner, an old rancher, had passed away, and his family sold the land quickly. It was my sanctuary, a place to escape the burnout of data screens and recycled air. That Tuesday morning in late spring, I was tending my flower garden, pulling weeds from wildflower beds I'd spent months reviving. The bees hummed around lavender, and sunlight filtered through the oak canopy. For the first time in years, I felt at peace. My land came with a small creek, overgrown flower beds, and a quiet I hadn't known since childhood. But as I brushed soil from my hands, gravel crunched in my driveway. A silver BMW pulled up, looking as alien on my rural property as a spaceship. Out stepped Maria Whitmore, late 30s, blonde hair perfectly styled, clutching a clipboard thick with papers. Her smile didn't reach her eyes, and her heels seemed to defy the soft earth. "Good morning," she said, extending a manicured hand. "I'm Maria Whitmore, president of the Willowbrook Estates HOA. We need to discuss your situation." I stood, wiping dirt on my jeans, already sensing trouble. Maria's polished demeanor screamed suburban control, the opposite of my dirt. Strict simplicity. She flipped through her papers with rehearsed authority. "Your wooden house doesn't meet our standards. Brick or stucco only, and this garden, too, natural." She spat the word like it was sour, gesturing at my wildflowers as if they were a crime scene. I glanced at the steel fence mocking the HOA domain. Rows of beige houses with identical lawns. Not a dandelion in sight. "Ma'am," I said, keeping my voice steady, "I bought this land fair and square. It's been private since the 1008, hundreds long before your HOA existed. I'd checked the deed thoroughly." Maria's smile tightened, her tone shifting to cold authority. "Mr. Murphy, when we expanded our boundaries last year, your property fell under our jurisdiction. You have 30 days to comply or face fines and legal action." She thrust a packet of papers at me: violation notices, architectural guidelines, and an approved contractor list. "Start making calls." As her BMW drove off, I noticed something odd under my porch, an ancient, rusted pipe cap barely visible in the dirt. It looked older than anything else on the property, like a relic from another era. I set the packet down and let it be, but that pipe stuck in my mind. The next morning, hammering shattered my peace. 2 men in work clothes drove red stakes into my garden, measuring with military precision. Maria didn't waste time. Over the next week, notices piled up. $1.50 for excessive grass height from my natural prairie patches, another for nonconforming tree placement, because my oaks cast shadows over an alleged easement. By week's end, I had 4 violations and $200 in fines for living on my own land. Contractors trimmed my trees, claiming they crossed the property line. Inspectors showed up unannounced, hunting for structural issues, with clipboards and smug attitudes. Each citation, outdoor furniture, garden hose storage, even my window trim color, felt like a calculated jab. Maria's genius was painting me as the disruptive outsider while posing as the voice of reason. Her notices preached community harmony and property values, building a narrative to justify escalating attacks. My 20 acres, it turned out, were prime real estate for 50 new house lots, and Maria was dismantling my resistance to her expansion plans. The social isolation hit harder. My neighbor Elizabeth, once warm with homemade cookies, now avoided me, her eyes flicking nervously toward the HOA office. I was advised not to get involved. She whispered shame in her voice. Maria wasn't just targeting me. She was poisoning the community, turning neighbors into reluctant enforcers. While digging around the surveyor's stakes, I uncovered something that changed everything. Beneath a layer of earth, I found a marker, Water Control 1893, carved deep into rusted metal. Below it, a valve wheel, worn but solid. My government work studying environmental systems told me this was big. In Texas, water rights from the 1008. Hundreds are ironclad. I pried open the cover, revealing a shaft leading to a massive valve assembly. Water rushed below, steady and alive. Curiosity and defiance took over. I gave the valve a quarter-turn counter, clockwise, then checked the creek behind my property. Within 7 minutes, the water slowed to a trickle, then stopped, exposing muddy banks for the first time in decades. I reversed the turn, and the flow returned. My hands shook as I covered the valve, realizing I controlled the water supply for the entire area, including Tom Whitmore's sheep ranch, where 500 animals depended on that creek. At the county clerk's office, I confirmed my find. My land was the control point for the Willow Creek watershed, established in 1893, with grandfathered water rights tied to my deed. Maria's campaign was child's play compared to this. The next morning, Tom stopped by, worry creasing his face. My creek went dry for 15 minutes yesterday, then came back. You notice anything odd? I shrugged, playing it off. Maybe a beaver dam, Tom. He nodded, but his concern lingered. Those sheep drink a lot of water. Maria's next move was brutal. At 6 a.m., I woke to the roar of a bulldozer tearing into my flower garden. Behind it, a dump truck and men with chainsaws. Maria stood 20 feet away, clipboard in hand, smiling like she was watching a masterpiece unfold. Emergency removal of unsafe vegetation and structures, she claimed, waving papers with fake stamps. My wildflowers, lavender, and vegetable plot vanished under metal treads. The pain was visceral, each crushed plant a piece of my heart. I recorded everything, shouting, "This is illegal." Maria just shrugged, her voice dripping with cruelty. "This place has no room for your individuality, Mr. Murphy." She'd crossed a line, turning me from a reasonable man into someone with nothing to lose. Her emergency meeting was a sham. Only 3 of 12 board members attended, none recalling a vote for demolition. I had proof of her lies, but my garden was gone. That evening, Tom saw the destruction and shook his head. "This is my wife's doing, isn't it?" His voice was heavy, knowing the answer. I was done playing defense. I drafted a letter outlining Maria's illegal actions and my water rights, delivering it to every HOA board member. I erected a sign on my property, "Historical Water System Rights, established 1893. Cars slowed as neighbors whispered, one muttering, "If it's real, we're sitting on a water bomb." Maria's response was unhinged. She arrived with a crowbar, destroying my sign while I recorded. "This is harassment." She shouted, oblivious to the irony. Her outburst showed the neighborhood she'd break the law when challenged, and I had it on video. At the next HOA meeting, Maria framed me as a threat to the community's water. I walked in with maps, photos of her destruction, and a portable pump to demonstrate my control. As she ranted about property values, I activated the pump, showing a real-time drop in water pressure. The room fell silent. A woman asked, "If he controls our water, what happens if we push him?" Then Tom stood, his voice shaking. "Maria, what have you done? You never mentioned water rights or threatening my sheep." The room erupted as neighbors realized Maria's schemes endangered their water supply. Tom's public confrontation shattered Maria's facade. "You lied to me, to our neighbors," he said. "You nearly cost me my livelihood." I spoke calmly. "I don't want to hurt anyone's water supply. I just want to live in peace, but I'll protect my rights if this harassment continues." Maria's authority collapsed as neighbors demanded answers. 3 days later, Maria sent more violation notices claiming my pump demo broke noise ordinances. She even brought a county inspector for a safety check without a warrant. I sent them packing and made my final move. That night, under cover of darkness, I turned the valve. The creek stopped. At the next HOA meeting, as Maria droned on, I texted Tom, "Check your creek." His panicked call interrupted her speech, broadcast over her phone. "The water's gone, Maria. My sheep are dying." The room froze as Maria's face paled. I walked in, calm but firm. "Maria has harassed me illegally for months. Now her husband's livestock pays the price." Tom burst in, falling to his knees. "Please turn the water back on. My sheep are innocent." The sight of his desperation, caused by his wife's vendetta, broke the room. I reactivated the flow. "Your sheep are safe." I told Tom, then faced Maria. "I want my garden restored, your resignation, a public apology and compensation. Do that, and the water stays on." Maria resigned that night, her authority in tatters. The HOA voted to fund my garden's restoration, using reserves meant for her expansion. Tom became my friend, helping replant my wildflowers and sharing coffee on my porch. Maria left town, her reputation ruined. 6 months later, my garden bloomed again, the creek flowed steadily, and Tom brought me weekly cheese from his sheep. "Sometimes," he said, "the best things come from fights we never wanted." Justice flowed like water, slow, unstoppable, finding its way. From all of us at QA Stories, thanks for watching. Smash that like button, drop a comment, and join us for more unbelievable stories.